Hey BookTube, I'm back for another video, and this will be a early May wrap-up of what I've been reading in May and what I plan to read for the rest of May, because we have about a week left. But I'm making this video early, mostly because I have time now, but also because May has been decidedly bad as a reading month. Not that I'm in some kind of reading slump or anything, it's just that the books that I've been reading have been taking much longer than I anticipated, and so I have not been reading a whole lot of uh, books this month, just reading the same ones. And so that's recently changed over, and I feel like now I have enough um, reading that I can, or enough that I've read that I can comfortably make a wrap up video, and then also I think I'll include what I plan to read uh, for the rest of this week, and then moving into June. So the first book that I want to talk about that I recently finished is Victor Hugo's Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo. This is the Alban Kreisleheimer translation. Don't know if I butchered that last name. I probably did, but it's a French novel. It's Victor Hugo. It's a classic. Commonly goes by The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and known usually through the cartoon, the Disney cartoon, which I still want to watch yet. I have not. I watched it. I'm certain I watched it as a kid, but I have not watched it anytime soon, and so I'd really like to watch it sometime. Maybe this upcoming week sometime. I don't usually watch a whole lot of movies to begin with, but I do like watching the Disney adaptations of classic books. I did that. Well, the opposite. I did that for the Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan of the Apes. I watched their Disney classic, and then I went back and read the book. So this will be different. I read the book, and now I want to go back and read or watch the cartoon. And the reason why I picked this up is because I think in a previous video of mine, I basically recalled or I lamented the fact that I had only read three novels by French authors, always in translation, of course, because I cannot read French, but I've only read three novels, even though one of them counts as Proust, so that's a lot of reading, like I've read all of Proust. But the other two were The Plague, which I've actually read twice, and that was for class, a university class. But then I also read Madame Bovary by Flaubert, and that's those are the only three French novels. Though I have a lot of French novels that I just have on my shelf that I haven't read, by Stendhal, Balzac, Zola, um, and even Hugo. So I figured that I would enter into the 19th century French literature, and this is the novel I picked up. Mostly because this has been on my TBR, like on the verge, on the fringe. That's why it's on this shelf here and not on my other place with all those bookshelves, because these are rough TBR. All the books on the shelf here is like rough TBR aspirations of what I might want to read, and I had this on there for that reason. So I figured I'd pick this one up and give it a read, and I'm very glad I did. It did start off quite slow for me, which is not something that usually matters. Usually, if something starts off slow, I'll just push on through. But lately, my reading has changed uh, in that or at least my reading, how I approach reading. Because in the past month and a half, I've DNF'd two books, books that I gave a chance to and didn't find uh, worth continuing, which is very unusual. I have not DNF'd books very often ever, and when this started giving me difficulties in the beginning, I just wasn't gelling with it. I got that feeling, maybe I should just read what I want to read and not force my way through this. But then I had that change of thought, like I don't want this to become a normal thing. I don't want to just start reading classics and then DNFing them because I thought they were difficult. The other two books that I read that I DNF'd, I did briefly mentioned them in my April reading wrap-up. They were not classics. They were nonfiction books that were completely dry and uh, lifeless, really. And one of them was a book that was not the book that I thought it was based on its title. So I think those were legitimate DNFs. But I figured, if I'm not gelling with this, I was gonna put it aside. But then I decided against that, and I pushed through, and it just immediately um, fell underneath the spell of this book. The spell of this book is real. I don't know if it's the translation or if it's Hugo himself, but the book was incredibly readable. Uh, the first part, the reason why I struggled with it is because Victor Hugo has this tendency to just start quoting names and events as if his audience knows about them. And maybe when this was first published in 1831, I believe. Maybe all that kind of stuff was known, but not for me. I didn't know much. Like he's just quoting all these French or listing all these French names and all these French places, and um, I was completely lost because I don't know the references, and the notes for this one are fairly bare. There's a lot. It almost seemed like almost arbitrary because there would be out of like one out of every five names would actually have a footnote that would explain the name. And unfortunately for me, the names that were explained were names that I usually knew, and the ones that were not explained were names that I didn't know. So maybe they were made up names. I don't know, but it was a little bit difficult getting into this, but once I got into it, I'm very glad I stuck with it. It is so good. Um, the story is probably known to most people. It's the story of um, Esmeralda, the gypsy dancer. She's a young girl, basically. She's like 16, but she is known throughout Paris because she does all these crazy dances, and she's got a goat that she has trained quite well, and that's how she makes her living. But then there's a few other cast of characters. There's of course Quasimodo, the he's the yeah, the hunchback is the term that is used for him. He's the hunchback, with the big wart over his eye, um, and he's deaf, and he can't walk straight because of his legs. Uh, I thought he was an incredibly interesting character, actually, even though he's technically not the main character. The main character would certainly be more Esmeralda. Um, Even though we do jump from character to character. And then there's of course Claude Frollo, the archdeacon from Notre Dame, and like which is a church, because the whole events take place in Paris, of course, but they also center usually around the church of Notre Dame, which you can see online, see images of it online, um, and in Victor Hugo's day, or I guess he wanted to immortalize it in this book, the setting, and he had a lot of the events in there. And Quasimodo is the bell ringer in that same church, and and that's how he became deaf. But yeah, he's sort of like this spirit that haunts the church because he doesn't interact with people, and he likes to commune with the statues, and he doesn't interact with people mostly because, of course, most people think he's incredibly ugly, and but then he gets involved with Esmeralda when she does a thing of kindness to him during uh, a public humiliation ceremony that he faces, and there's there's a lot to really like in this book, a lot. And then we got Claude Frollo, who's the archdeacon, who is incredibly smart, like incredibly learned, and but he falls in love with Esmeralda, and it completely like rocks his world and overthrows his religious convictions, and he becomes basically a sort of villain in this story, and it's totally fascinating, uh, and it's a tragedy. It does not end happy, which I was kind of surprised. I thought it might end happy because of just how playful Hugo was with some of the storylines, and um, all these chance encounters and whatever that keep on happening, which you don't end up minding at all because it all comes together so neatly, and it just um, it's a great read. I did quite enjoy this. I don't know how other translations would feel or if there's a better translation out there, but I really did like this translation. I think this translation is from the 80s, no, 90s, 93, 1993. So that's Notre Dame de Paris. I'm quite pleased that I read this. He does have a few digressions in here. I know Hugo is known for his digressions, at least in Les Miserables. Uh, he does have a few digressions in here, but they definitely fit into the story. Like he explains, gives detail about Paris and like the whole setting of Paris, because this is historical fiction, even though it was for us now it's like a classic, because he's writing all the events take place in the High Middle Ages in 1482 in Paris, and he's writing this in uh, 1831. So, and I also really like the cover because the cover is called Esmeralda, and it's from 1839 by Charles Augustin Steuben, and it's so shortly after this, or within the decade when this was written, people were making wonderful art pieces of this. And I really thought that's quite cool because, I mean, modern novels always. I mean, I always think of like when you think of or you look at the book prize lists of books, which are usually most likely to become classics. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but all the book covers always look like they're made out of like candy wrappers or something, with all the colors and all the twists and the turns and whatever, trying to look abstract and whatever and hip. Um, but the art that always comes from them is usually just like a movie that or a mini series or something, or maybe a song, but nothing like this, where you got a really cool portrait like that. So it's too bad. That kind of stuff is really cool. But yeah, I really enjoyed that novel. I don't think I'll be reading Les Miserables anytime soon. I heard that's quite different from this book. It's quite a bit bigger and a lot more digressive. So I don't know about that. But I did enjoy what I read in this novel. But the one book that really took up most of my May so far, and I just finished it yesterday, is Why Love Hurts by Eva Illouz. I did show this a few times in a few other videos, but I did not go into what it's about or what it is, other than I'm quoted from it a little bit. But uh, and it looks on the surface like it's like a great cover. Why Love Hurts. Um, but really, it's a very academic book. It's a book of sociology. It's a sociological study on the modern conception of love, and and I thought it was just amazing. I ate this up, not in the sense that I blew through it, because obviously I did not. I think this book took me over 3 weeks to read, and it's not even that long. It's maybe 350 pages, something like that. It's hard to really know when you're reading it on an ebook, but the ebook itself had like 380 pages or something, but that includes notes and everything, and an index and whatever. But this book is very scholarly, and that made it slow reading at first. But once I kind of got into the rhythm of her academic prose, and once I got going, I found so much insight and so much to agree with and to disagree with, that I was highlighting lots of sections, writing furious notes, and writing notes of affirmation. It's a very good book, and it's not at all the self-help book that it looks like. It's more of an analysis of modern love, or how she puts it, she's analyzing modernity through the realm of uh, the lens of love, and how modern love has so much changed uh, all these aspects of how you think of yourself, how you think of other people, how you approach relationships and imagination, and Um, it's it's a hard book to summarize. I could not summarize this book in any sense of the word because she goes through so much. Um, and she comes from a feminist perspective, but what she says very explicitly is that she is not letting that perspective, or she doesn't take the normal feminist perspective in the sense that she says a lot of feminists pathologize male behavior and place a lot of blame on men. And she does criticize men quite a bit in here, but she doesn't see this book as a book criticizing men because it's not. She just thinks that there's in Modern Love has less visual uh, modes of inequality that she wants to uh, expose, and that it's a book more written for women, in the sense that it's more from the woman's perspective, which makes sense as the author is a woman, and she says that that's the perspective that she knows more of. But she goes through. Well, let me read the chapter titles here. So the chapter one is just the misery of love, but then and then she goes through like modernity and love as modernity. So if you're not familiar with the idea of modernity, but it's like you got pre-modern, which she goes through the 19th century, and she does contrast what she calls pre-modern to modern, uh, just ideas in general, but mostly in the realm of love. But it's also uh, the second chapter is the great transformation of love or the emergence of marriage markets, and this is taking off the title of the Great Transformation by Karl Polanyi, where he makes this argument about the Great Transformation of how things change from pre-modern. I think it's like economics pre-modern economics to modern economics, and she kind of takes that concept and puts it onto the idea of love, because consumerism or consumer society is a big um, part of her analysis, where it's like the whole idea of consumer society is like you have infinite amount of choice and you're always moving from one thing to the next, and you're always um, uh, trying to get exactly what you want, be very specific and whatnot. And she thinks that this has moved on, this logic has moved on into the realm of love and the choosing of a relationship. And she analyzes commitment phobia through the what she calls the new architecture of romantic choice, which is like extremely wordy. I took it to mean like her architecture of romantic choice as so much of more of a hierarchy, though I think she would consider that a bad word. Um, and where and one of the well, I guess one of the things I should say too is that she does what other sociologists or other books on sociology do. I've read This is the third book of sociology that I've read this month, or not this month, this year, and they all do this one thing where they take a sample of 100 people and interview them about their subject, whatever the subject is. So I read Chemically Imbalanced back in, I think, February, maybe March. And that book interviewed 100 people on the idea of depression and anxiety and whether or not they take uh, antidepressants and how they view therapy and whatnot. And then in Cheap Sex by Mark Regnerus, he interviews 100 young people about their idea of relationship, about dating, and about sex in general, and about online dating and whatnot. And then they both quote liberally from those interviews as part of their analysis, though they supplement it from like data and statistics and whatnot. This book does take a similar approach in that she interviews 100 people. Her 100 people is a lot more diverse because she interviews people from America, from I think from Israel, because she teaches in Israel, I believe, like Hebrew University or something. Israel, from France, and I think from Germany, if I'm not mistaken. all these places where she has been and has taught before, and I think she interviews, and she doesn't have an age specific, unlike some of the others did. And she quotes from them not nearly as much as those other two books, but she does quote from them when they do uh, support her argument, or when she wants to illustrate her argument with a personal story from her interview. And I think it does quite work. It does work, but though this book is far more theoretical than those other books were, those other books do incorporate a lot of data into them, and this book is a lot more theoretical, more her trying to build an argument through many different complex steps. And that's the thing. I found it quite difficult to follow that argument, but I was so thrilled by all these different ideas that I really didn't mind. And I don't think that I think that's partially on me because I'm not. I don't my I do love reading nonfiction, but I don't really have that analytical bearing down into the argument kind of brain. Um, when I grew up, I was reading mostly novels, so I can analyze to death a novel. But reading a work of nonfiction is a little bit more difficult. It's slower going. I'm uh, trying to understand and keep up with the book. And usually I get lost very much in the trees and kind of find it hard to look back at the forest of the argument. So I would have to go back and maybe do a video on this on its own once I've really come to grips with what it's trying to argue. Because I really can't give you anything off the top of my head, other than I think the main thing that really stuck out to me was the idea of how relationships, not just with like romantic relationships, but social relationships just in general seem to bear a lot more on people's self-understanding, but not self-understanding, um, on people's self-worth. That's the term, self-worth. So people's self-worth plays a big role in whether or not people accept them or people reject them. So she said, like in the 19th century and whatnot, when people are rejected in uh, uh, proposals or realms of love, they did not take. It was more like a social embarrassment than it was, say, a personal torment, or like a rejection of the self. And nowadays, in romantic love, to be rejected means a rejection of the individual self, or at least that's how people take it. And that makes it incredibly fraught and painful, and it makes it makes it a lot more risky. And she makes that I thought that very very interesting point. So I thought that was a really cool. That's the I guess that's the one thing that I found the most interesting in this book. But there's 7 or 8 other things that I could point out from here. But I would need to go back to this book, or go back through my notes and my highlights to really give a full picture of what she's trying to do with the book, because I I very much loved it, but it was a difficult book to read. And now I think that's it for books that I've finished. Now I'm going to actually talk about 2 books that I'm currently reading now. And so this book I started, I think, early this past week, and I'm still reading it. This is another book on that book about sex list that I made. This is Rethinking Sex by Christine Emba, and it's just a short little book, about 150-ish pages, book looking at or rethinking sex, and then the subtitle here is A Provocation. And I don't know what I think about this book. I'm not done it yet. I still have maybe 2.5 chapters left. I'll certainly be finishing it maybe tomorrow. Um, I don't think anything in here is very groundbreaking, but I don't think I'm the intended audience. I think the intended audience is for mostly women who are fed up with our hookup culture and hookup and like online dating culture. And I'm not either of those. And I don't think I was the one who needs to rethink the ideas of sex here, and so a lot of what she is saying just seems obvious to me, and things that I've already kind of understood, and um, I don't know. It's just, and the interesting thing too is that this author is supposedly coming from a conservative perspective. I think she's an opinion piece writer for the Washington Post. She mentions how she grew up evangelical and converted to Catholicism in in university. Um, but I haven't really gotten that perspective unless just her calling for having more ethics or more morality in the realm of sex other than just pure consent uh, is considered like a conservative stance. I mean, small c conservative too, not any kind of like political party stance. Um, so I don't know. It's it's easy to read. It does read sort of like a lengthy Substack piece, but I guess it's unavoidable in today's world. And she does do like a decent amount of research, and then actually she quotes or she references Why Love Hurts and Cheap Sex. So two books that I've recently read and that I found a lot of interest in, and so it's interesting that she quotes or that she references those books, meaning that she did consult them. Though I have a hard time really seeing why she would have needed to in the context of what she is saying, because I think there's a lot more interesting ways she could have turned based on a reading of those two books had than if she just flipped through them and mine them for a quote here and there. So I don't know. It has yet to be seen what I really fully make of this because it is fairly short. Um, I guess if you're a woman who's totally uh, fed up with hookup culture and whatnot, then uh, maybe this would be a book for you. But I will finish it, but I doubt I'll make a video of it or mention it again. Um, and after that book, I think I'm kind of tired on the subject of sex. Uh, let's just say that it has been exhausting reading a whole bunch of books about sex. But um, so I think I'm going to move on to other things. For example, a book I just started this morning is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, which is a relatively short fantasy book about a unicorn. And I don't think I even finished a full chapter yet, but it's quite delightful. It's about a unicorn who was living in the forest and uh, was figured that uh, I know they're just eternally happy because unicorns don't die. Unicorns are eternal, and it was just happy by itself. And then two men come into the woods to hunt, and she overhears their conversation and gets the impression that she is the last unicorn and that men have no memory of when unicorns existed in abundance. And it gets her thinking that, is she really the last unicorn? And so she goes out to try and seek uh, other people of her kind. And that's just where I am. She's still traveling. So there is a weird scene with a butterfly where a butterfly lands on her horn and she just starts talking to it and it starts talking back. And the weird thing is that the butterfly starts like quoting poetry and singing songs and whatnot. And it's just her travel companion for a day. And it's kind of charming, but kind of weird too, because it kind of just comes out of nowhere because she doesn't talk to any other animals and humans all just want to try and capture her, but of course she's a unicorn, so she can easily outwit them. But that magical butterfly, or that talkative quoting poetry butterfly, just comes out of nowhere, it seems. But I also love this cover. It's a very nice cover. Uh, but yeah, it's short. It's like 200 pages or something. So I think I'll like it. I think it'll be great. Good to read. And then now I want to go back to the, the the previous videos that I made about buying too many books. One of the response videos I got was from James at Quainting Curious Volumes, about my Western canon reading list and how I had fallen off the track and been reading other things. And he gave me a bunch of advice on what to do if I want to actually seriously read the classics, which I do. And so I'm thinking of jumping back onto that bandwagon of my Western canon reading list. I should also be making videos on it. I really should. So first off, before I actually jump onto that Western canon reading list, I'm going to read a book of mythology, and this is Edith Hamilton's book of mythology. This is Timeless Tales of Gods and Heroes, and it's mostly Greek and Roman myth, though there is a tiny little section on Norse mythology, and it's just a little mass market paperback with a bunch of illustrations in it. Bunch of illustrations like that. I've not read anything by Edith Hamilton, though I was tempted to read her Greek Way, because in my Western canon reading list, I am still in the Greeks. I should be long done the Greeks by now. I was hoping to be done the Greeks by halfway through the year, but I got sidetracked, so maybe done the Greeks by the end of the year? I hope so, because I don't have that many authors left. And so I'll be reading this to boost up on my mythology, and if I do like this, I will read more books on mythology, because I have quite a few on the shelf here. I guess I should have showed them, but this is the one I picked up, because this is the one I'm going to be reading. I'll be reading this one as soon as I'm done rethinking sex. So, book on mythology, and then once I'm I've boned up on mythology, I'm going to be reading the Greek playwrights, starting with Aeschylus, and this is Prometheus Bound and Other Plays. This includes the supplements, Seven Against Thebes and the Persians, and this is translated by Philip Vallicott. And then his Oresteia trilogy. This is translated by Alan Shapiro and Peter Berrien. This is a bit of an oversized volume, but it's nice and floppy. And then I'll be going to Sophocles. Sophocles, I have his 3 Theban plays here in the Fagles translation. This is Antigone, Oedipus the King, and Oedipus at Colonus. Nice little mass market here. And then we got Euripides, we got Medea and Other Plays. This includes Medea, Hecabe, Electra, and Heracles. And this is translated by, who is this? Philip Vallicott, who I think is the same translator of the Aeschylus volume that I showed you. Yeah. And then we got Aristophanes, who's the comedy playwright, not the tragedian, not a tragedian. So he's, I think he's the only comedy playwright that we have surviving in ancient Greece. This is the Wasps, the Poet and the Women, and the Frogs. And this is translated with an introduction by David Barrett. And then we got another volume by Penguin here. This is Lysistrata, the Acarnanians, and the Clouds. And this is translated by Alan Summerstein. So that'll be my reading. That'll take me from the end of May to well into June, I imagine. And actually, I have 2 more volumes here to show you. So this is not all of the plays that we have for Greek plays. So the ones that I don't that are not included in these individual volumes, I'll be supplementing them with whatever's in this anthology here, which is edited with an introduction by Moses Hadas. This is just Greek drama by Bantam. There's some plays in here that are not in these volumes, especially the ones by Euripides. And then we also have this 2-volume Greek Tragedies, Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is the University of Chicago Press edition, edited by David Green and Richard Lattimore. So, 2 volumes here of more poems, or of playwrights. So that's basically my plan of what to read in the upcoming month or so, and we'll see how that goes. I am leaving my e-reading open, because I only showed you 1 e-reading book, so after this I'll be reading another book on my e-reader. I don't really know what yet, I'm just going to enjoy this because the book on my e-reader is usually the book that I end up reading uh, at at work during lunch and during coffee break. So uh, what whatever I usually uh, let it go more on chance or whim or whatever I'm feeling after I've finished the book. Because I do have some Greek books in my e-reader too that I could technically read, but maybe I'll be into fiction a lot more. It depends because this will take up the bulk of my reading during the day when I'm not at work. So that's it, BookTube. That's what I've read in May and what I'm reading and what I'll be reading for the rest of May and well into June. So I know I have a lot of tags that I need to do. Uh, I just don't really have time to make a whole lot of videos, or at least I have time, but I don't have the opportunity really. Uh, and I want to make sure that my reading uh, is better for June because I had really good reading month in February and March, and even most of April were really good reading months. But um, then I hit some academic books that slowed me down. Not that I'm really resentful or that I didn't like those books, but they were really good. But I still would like to um, have a bit of a more diverse June and reading more books. So we'll see how that turns out, and tell me what you're reading, and we'll see you then, BookTube.